Welcome to Alaska Weather, a production of Alaska Public Media and the National Weather Service, Alaska Region. Produced and broadcast daily from the studios of KAKM, Alaska Weather provides complete forecasts, public, marine, and aviation for all of Alaska. Alaska Weather is made possible by the following sponsors.
The National Weather Service.
Hello everyone, and thanks again for joining us for this Saturday's edition of Alaska Weather. I'm Dave Percy. Up first, satellite imagery here showing a front had pushed through the southeast coast, pushing up into the Yukon, and then trailing back to the southwest, and actually you can see more moisture beginning to stream northeastward here. Mostly high and mid-level stuff, some more rain back to the southwest, and rain today up along the North Gulf Coast. Areas of turning more showery here along the North Gulf Coast and in across south central Alaska and back to the west there, with clouds all the way from the Copper River Basin northward to the eastern Beaufort Sea coast, and then out here to the west, drier conditions. See some clearing there. Noatak Valley on down to the coastline, south side of the Seward Peninsula across Norton Sound, and then across western Yukon Delta, and kind of a mostly cloudy day on across Bristol Bay from the Kuskokwim Delta into the Kuskokwim Valley there in the mid-Yukon River Valley, with clouds not too bad here over the eastern Bering Sea areas from the Fox Islands northward all the way up to the Strait there. Some clouds right through here from the Chukchi Sea, but not all that bad. Northwest breezes and winds there, keeping it up mostly on the Bering Sea side of the peninsula with some clearing to the south, and then a very weak front pushing eastward with the westerly winds out here. Actually kind of a split. This stuff breaking off heading to the southeast, the main front swinging through, kind of breaking up. Actually, the frontal boundary still back through here, so quite a weak system there pushing eastward, and it'll continue to do so. Winds not much of a problem at all, just a narrow band of some light rain. On the chart, here's roughly the position today of that front, with light rain and fog, central Aleutians, back to the west there, mostly to the north, but kind of wrapping back in towards Chimney-Attu, and also the gradient up over the northwest Bering there, really not all that much here in advance of the front, and even less behind it. And out over the Bering Sea, light winds here, ridge of high pressure from eastern Aleutians all the way up into the Russian Far East, linking up with that stronger high up over the Arctic at 1,021 millibars. Low clouds, areas of fog across the Chukchi Sea, western Arctic coast, southward through the Bering Strait to St. Lawrence Island, and then down along the coast here, taking off to the southeast, banking up on the Bering Sea side of the eastern Aleutians, Alaska Peninsula. A few showers down in this area as well, and a trough bringing some showers across Kodiak Island here from southern Cook Inlet, or actually Kachemak Bay area, and then flow from southeast to the, or actually from the east-southeast to the west-northwest, bringing showers all along the North Gulf Coast, in across the Kenai Peninsula to Cook Inlet. 12-hour rainfall amounts today in Nilchik picked up about 1/3 of an inch of rain, as did Cordova, with some showers up into the Copper River Basin, and then this front pushing through the Panhandle. Some isolated thunderstorms developing near or just north of the Panhandle today, and then up in the Yukon there in the backside of that occluded front, and then that trailing back to the south. Most of the rainfall along the North Gulf Coast, or around Yakutat to be more specific. They picked up about 1/2 an inch today, and about 1/3 of an inch at Sitka. Lighter amounts down to the south. By contrast, just 0.08 of an inch falling at Klawock. And then quite an area of light precipitation up here. Central Brooks rain, some showers extending down in the northern Koyukuk Valley. Light rain, fog, and drizzle across much of the eastern North Slope on out to the coastline. And for tonight, should get cool enough to maybe see some mixed rain and snow over the North Slope and eastern Arctic coast. Otherwise, areas of rain continue. Showers here over the eastern interior, mostly cloudy skies. A few isolated showers over the White Mountains. Otherwise, Tanana Valley pretty dry from the central interior back out to the west. No change from what you saw today out there. Very weak low here over the Kuskokwim Delta, really not doing much at all. We still have some showers here along the western Alaska Range down in toward Iliamna Lake, maybe Kachemak Bay, possibly just some isolated stuff here for the Aleutians or the Aleutian Range, and maybe some clearing for the Alaska Peninsula. Light winds, variable clouds, patchy areas of fog out here over the eastern Bering Sea, still under the control of high pressure. And then high pressure developing here behind that system now, 1,020 millibars, but not good enough to shut the rain off. Still a lot of showers over the southern panhandle tonight. And then southwest flow here coming up the northwest side of that system. Pretty good shot of moisture will come into the northeastern North Gulf Coast again, right in there on Yakutat. Could see some moderate rain for a time tonight. Another trough following in behind. And out to the west, that front, weak front, actually kind of hangs up right through here. Doesn't really make too much eastward progress. Brings a slight chance, or brings a chance of rain into Nikolsky, staying dry for Alaska. Still a chance of rain or more showery conditions, but whatever falls will be light anywhere out there for Atka. Isolated showers back to Shimia. Westerly winds behind the front, southeast in advance of that. Really the wind shift about all that delineates this thing. Very light area precipitation with that. And the high pressure holds here for the Alaska Peninsula right up through the Bering Strait, the Russian Far East into the Arctic. So that keeps northeast flow up there along the Arctic coast. And that'll continue to pull chillier air in. And tomorrow, areas of rain mixed with snow there on the eastern Arctic coast. And of course, any higher elevations in the Brooks Range, they'll probably fall in the form of snow. Otherwise, areas of rain continue there with shower chances over the upper Yukon Valley westward to the Koyukuk, and maybe some clearing for the Kobuk-Selawik Valley areas. Northwest coast looking pretty good for tomorrow. Offshore flow there. Light northerlies there through the Bering Strait. So still some areas of low clouds and fog possible anywhere over the entire eastern Bering Sea here. Best chance of clearing probably up in the northwest, and maybe some along the coast here, the western Yukon Delta to Nunivak Island. Then back into low clouds and fog. Could see some sun tomorrow for the Alaska Peninsula. And again, this front really kind of stationary, still holding together enough there. Narrow band of light rain. Again, mostly affecting Nikolsky back to Atka. Another low develops there south of the eastern Aleutians. Southwest flow brings some showers into the western Aleutians. Otherwise, no significant winds to speak of anywhere. And then we've got a trough here extending from that 1,006 millibar low just south of Old Crow, bringing some showers there with it along the trough axis all the way down to the Cobourg Mountains into Togiak Bay. Nothing significant at all down in that area, and chance of rain and drizzle Kodiak Island. Looking at southerly flow here, so that's kind of a wet pattern, especially for the North Gulf Coast. Looks cloudy and wet tomorrow. Showers that'll extend on in across much of the northern southeast coast, while the southern areas finally dry out. That leftover moisture shifts eastward. Ridging loses the high center, but enough ridging there. You could see some possible sunshine clearing Metlakatla, Klawock, Heidelberg, on up in toward Wrangell, maybe as far north as Petersburg. Otherwise, I see a warm front here developing and pushing just onto the chart by Sunday afternoon, and this low here, and all that combines into a pretty good storm that moves northward. And we'll see on Monday that low center still a ways south of even Kodiak Island there, but that'll be bringing gale force winds in the forecast in the late afternoon all the way up to the North Gulf Coast, back down across Kodiak Island, kind of iffy on when exactly the rain will spread into Kodiak, but look for increasing chances of during the afternoon on Monday. Take a little longer to get up to the north there, but streaming in along that warm front. Big push of moisture will probably slide on into the northern panhandle, and by evening much of the area will be in some light rain as narrow ridge of high pressure begins to slowly retreat a little bit there. Otherwise, rain mixed with snow again possible. Central Brooks Range out to the eastern Arctic coast, but nothing much at all. High pressure sitting just to the northwest with clearing here. The Chukchi Sea again, best conditions out in this area are driest with maybe some sunshine. Showers along the trough axis there from Kuskokwim Bay up to the Brooks Range. And out west, another system, not all that strong, but a little bit better than the front that's currently out there. So look for rain to come eastward with that from the shimmying at 2 area Sunday night, pushing into at least Atka in the afternoon on Monday. And temperatures down across the southeast coast this afternoon in the mid-50s to near 60. That's Wrangell with 60. 59 in Klawock and Stewart, 59. Skagway up to 61. Lower 50s North Gulf Coast, Prince William Sound. There's a 61 at Kenai. 52 down at Kodiak. 55 both at Talkeetna and Gulkana. Into the mid-60s here in the central Tanana Valley. Farther to the north, 54 up at Fort Yukon. And 30s to lower 40s there for the North Slope and the Arctic coast. Upper 40s here in the north central, northwest interior, as well as the Seward Peninsula. Otherwise, Kotzebue at 51, Nome 47, and a 58-degree rating there at McGrath, 53 Bethel, 53 also over at St. Michael, and 51 at Macoriac. Mid-40s there for St. Lawrence Island, lower 50s in the Pribilofs, 48 Atka, 54 Adak, 52 over at Shimia. Unalaska, lower 50s. 48 Cold Bay, warming to 61 up there at King Salmon. Lows for tonight, upper 40s here, Kodiak Island, up across much of the southwest interior, eastward through the Tanana Valley, cooling back down toward 40 toward Eagle and Northway, near 50 out over the Aleutians, lower 50s for the Panhandle, 30s, upper 20s, 2 lower 30s there from the Brooks Range to the Arctic coast. And then for highs tomorrow, mostly in the 35 to 40 degree range north of the Brooks Range. Tomorrow, lower 60s, Yukon Delta in toward Fairbanks, as well as the Susitna Valley, lower 60s, and even more into the lower 60s here over the excuse me, southern southeast coast. Flying weather tomorrow morning, early. IFR, eastern Arctic coast areas right down covering the Brooks Range, eastern north slope. Marginal VFR through the central eastern interior, gets more scattered south of the Alaska Range. And then a lot of IFR here out over the Bering Sea, which dissipates, kind of splits a little bit tomorrow afternoon from the Pribilofs up to St. Matthew Island. More out here to the west and southwest, spreading eastward across Adak and Atka. VFR along the coast into the west central interior. IFR, central Brooks Range to the eastern Arctic coast. Areas of marginal VFR, southern Alaska, hanging onto the IFR, Lynn Canal and Glacier Bay. Passes, Anatuvik, IFR, same forecast for Adigan. Lake Clark and Merrill, marginal, rainy, marginal. Windy, starting out marginal, becoming VFR. Isabel looks marginal. Mentasta, VFR. Tanita, VFR. And Portage, marginal VFR. Chilkoot and White, IFR. And for freezing levels, colder air, as I mentioned, coming southward. So early tomorrow morning, 2,000 feet down to the Brooks Range at the surface over the north slope out to the Arctic coast. Another cold pool here sliding down across the Alaska Peninsula. Otherwise, kind of a gradient here over the southern southeast coast, running from 6,000 to 12,000 feet over the Queen Charlottes and 10,000 feet over the central Aleutians. Icing looks like above about 3,000 feet here in the north tomorrow. Areas of light to isolated, very isolated moderate rime. Patch here over the eastern Tanana Valley, 40-mile country. And from the northern southeast coast to about Cape Yakataga, and then along the western Alaska Range, really nothing very significant at all. And the winds aloft, cold low dropping southward from the Arctic there to near Barrow. And another one here, Bristol Bay, main jet, almost reaching the central Aleutians down to the south and riding up that thermal gradient in across the southern panhandle at about 100 knots. And for 9,000 feet, we've got northeasterlies up here north of the Brooks Range, 15 to 20 knots there. Central western Arctic coast actually picking up to 25 knots around Cape Lisburne. Back down to 20 and very light here over the interior and the Bering Sea. Panhandle 10 to 20 out of the southwest, and then stronger winds restricted back here up over the northwest Bering. And same pattern at 3,000 feet, northeasterlies 15 to 20, up to 25, again around Cape Lisburne. Light overall at interior Alaska, North Gulf Coast, even the Gulf of Alaska, very light winds tomorrow. Southwest just 5 to 15, southern panhandle maybe up to 20 for Lynn Canal. Light easterlies here for the Alaska Peninsula and Fox Islands. Turbulence-wise, possibly some here along the mountains, north of Yakutat over toward White Pass, Chilkoot and White Pass, along the Brooks Range, back out to the far western Arctic coast, Bering Strait, St. Lawrence Island. And that's about it. Really not all that bad turbulence-wise across the entire state. And after the break, I'll be back with the ice edge and the marine forecasts.
Welcome back to another edition of Alaska Weather Facts. I'm Dave Snider, and joining me today is Cindy Preller. She's the Tsunami Program Manager for Alaska Region's National Weather Service. And Cindy, we hear a lot about tsunamis in the news, probably a lot more than we used to, but let's remind everybody, what is a tsunami?
Thanks for having me, Dave.
Sure.
Tsunami is basically, it's really simple. It's just a disturbance in the water column. So the entire water column from the seafloor to the sea surface is disturbed by something major, usually a major earthquake. But it can also be a volcanic eruption, even an asteroid. Landslide is especially dangerous.
Okay, so if I'm sitting in my bathtub and I drop a bath toy, that could be a bathtub tsunami.
It is absolutely a bathtub tsunami.
Okay, very good. So Alaska is one of the states, or maybe the state, with the greatest amount of coastline. So tsunamis are a pretty major risk here in Alaska. Who is most at risk?
Yeah, Alaska is significant. We actually make most of the Pacific's tsunamis on the Aleutian Trench. And it's where the Pacific plate is subducting underneath the American plate. And we produce some very large, great quakes. And of course, the most at risk is the Aleutian Trench.
Okay.
But that extends into south central Alaska as well. They're at huge risk. And then southeast Alaska's risk is really mostly landslide focused.
Okay. Are there any places along the Alaskan coastline that don't have a tsunami risk, or at least a very, very low risk?
Absolutely. The Bering Sea's risk is very low, and the Arctic's risk is very low as well.
Okay, so when we're talking about tsunami dangers, those are places that need to be monitored, but probably not really.
No, I mean, I won't say never.
Yeah, sure.
Because I know better.
Science knows better.
Right. So,
very good.
Near to never.
Okay. Well, let's just say you're on the coast, anywhere in Alaska. What are warning signs that tsunami dangers are threatening you right now?
This is super important because Alaska's greatest risk, especially out on the Aleutians and South Central, is a near-field tsunami, and then of course the landslides in southeast. It's even more intense because we can't.
So shorter warning time.
No warning time.
Okay.
The earthquake is the warning.
Okay.
And that is the most important thing for anybody to remember. The water can arrive in less than 2 minutes.
2 minutes. Wow.
Yeah, at the National Tsunami Warning Center in Palmer, we need to get the warning out in 5 minutes. So for those near-field tsunamis, it's the earthquake is the warning. So if you feel shaking, and of course the first thing you do is drop, cover, and hold, and you need to start counting slowly to 20.
The right way. How do you do that?
Oh, I teach kids to do it with their favorite things. So 1 chocolate, 2 chocolate, 3 chocolate, but you can count anything you like. And if you're thinking of something happy, that helps. Especially helps kids, but it'll help your psyche.
So you don't speed up because you're getting stressed out.
Right. It actually lowers your heart rate.
Interesting.
You know, so if you think of something you love and practice that. So you're in an earthquake, you're under the table, you're next to the ocean. Right. This is important if you're next to the ocean. If you're not next to the ocean, don't worry about it. Just stay in place under cover.
And you're talking about a mile, a quarter mile? What's close?
A mile, even a couple miles. You know, our rule of thumb used to be a mile inland was safe, but the last few tsunamis have taught us otherwise. So, yeah, you know, in Japan we had inundation up to 10 miles.
Right.
So.
And that was a big quake.
That was a big quake.
So you have a quake, you're counting slowly to 20.
To 20.
What's next?
And if you get to 20 and it's still shaking, you need to evacuate. And that is, that's scary.
Yeah.
Because you're evacuating in a live event that's still shaking. You know, 1964 shook for 4.5 minutes. Indonesia shook for 12 minutes.
Wow, right.
Japan, I think, shook for 6. I'm not sure of that, but it was long. Anyway, more than 20 seconds.
And that's a sign of a very major earthquake, the worst.
Well, 20 seconds is a magnitude 7, so that's not the worst. But what a magnitude 7 can do is trigger a landslide. And those landslides might be a submarine landslide, so you won't see it, you won't hear it, you won't know it, and then the water's moving. So that's really, really, really dangerous. That's what happened in '64 first. Seward, Valdez, Whittier all had landslides first.
And when you're talking about the water is a warning sign too. What happens with the water that gives you a very easy visual sign that something's changing? Not
guaranteed. It might go out, it might go way out really fast enough to leave the fish behind, but that's not guaranteed. It might just be a fast flood instead. So either way, if it's acting like a super fast rising tide, faster than a tide should rise, get out of there. And if it goes out really fast, get out of there. You know, we lost a lot of lives because people will go check out the new tide pools or
Sure.
pick up fish or shells or, you know, so, and it should feel weird.
Right.
You know, it should be weird.
So pay attention to those natural warning signs and how you feel, because those are maybe the only clues you have.
Right, and you know, sound also. You can hear a tsunami. It'll sound like a roaring train, maybe.
Okay.
Or it might sound silent because the water's been pulled out.
Right.
And that's pretty weird. Imagine camping
Yeah.
at night
Yeah.
near the beach, and all of a sudden you don't hear the ocean anymore.
That would be different.
That would be weird.
Huh,
Yeah.
okay.
And then you also might hear blowing bubbles, and that's actually from the pressure that's blowing the air out from the sand grains, rock
Interesting.
grains. So if you hear blowing bubbles, that's a little weird.
Okay.
Or clinking rocks, you know, like a rain stick. So those are the sound signs. So the visual is rushing in or rushing out, and roaring especially.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it takes a lot of work to get people and keep people aware of what the tsunami warning signs are and what their risks are around Alaska. And there's a website that can help them do that. Where can they go online to get more information for their school, their home, their church, their business?
Oh, there's several. The National Tsunami Warning Center has a website as well, and the easiest way to look that up is just NTWC.
NTWC.
The URL is not intuitive at all.
Okay.
There's also ready.alaska.gov. The state of Alaska has a lot of helpful stuff. Preparedness kits. They have everything you need to get ready.
Okay.
And then for teachers and others, there's a wonderful curriculum called Alaska Tsunami Education Program.
Alaska Tsunami Education Program. Okay.
And that's AKwx.
AKwx. Okay, very good. Those are really good tips to get more information and search that out and help your own community stay safe with the threat of tsunamis around Alaska. Next time we come back and talk to you some more about the Tsunami Ready program and get more in depth and how people can learn more about the risks and what to do here in Alaska. So thank you for joining us today, Cindy. And next time on Alaska Weather Facts, more on tsunamis around Alaska. We'll see you next time.
Welcome back. Sea ice analysis for today. Not much different. Still about 250 nautical miles there due north of the Central Coast or Point Barrow, and this area here about 100 nautical miles to the north, and not expected to move in toward the coast at all. In fact, the entire ice edge isn't expected to change much through the forecast period. On to coastal water forecast. East on the south coast, only 15 knots. Southerlies up to 20 here on the north coast. Lynn Canal south at 20, and southeasterlies 15. Stevens Passage up to 20 knots or Clarence Strait. And then for the next day, Monday, we've got south winds coming up as that big storm comes up from the south. 30 knots there. Gales here for the north coast at 35 knots with higher gusts. South 15, much lighter over the inside waters, still up to 20 knots there for Clarence Strait. And for Cook Inlet, northeast at 15, or northeast 10, pretty light winds. East 15 for Kachemak Bay into the Barrens. Southwest, swinging around there to southwest 15 on the east side of Kodiak. East-northeast 20 for the North Gulf Coast. And then for Prince William Sound, those winds increasing, especially in the afternoon into evening. Right now going for 20 knots out of the east, 4-foot seas. Gales here showing up for the eastern North Gulf Coast, about 30 on the west side to 35 for the Barrens. Northeast 40 for the east side of Kodiak Island, 12-foot seas. And small craft advisories from Shelikof Strait all the way up to and across southern Cook Inlet. For Bristol Bay, south 15 turns southwest here on the Bering Sea side of the peninsula. And then from Cape Sarachev to Castle Cape, southeast 15, westerlies on to the east there from Castle Cape. And then for Monday, big change in the winds here coming up considerably. Sitkinak to Castle Cape, northeast 35 knots. Increasing to 25 knots there on down toward Cape Sarachev, staying light in the Bering Sea side for both Bristol Bay at 15. And then for the eastern Aleutians, 25 knots there south of Unalaska Island, and basically from Nikolsky westward a little bit there at 25, otherwise swinging around to the west, northwest 20 to 25, and then south-southwest or southwest to west at 20 west of Adak. And for Monday, lighter winds out through this area shaping up, and variable 15 for the central Aleutians. Light variable winds actually here for the eastern Aleutians, Fox Islands as well. And then for the southwest coast, northwest 10 to 15 here tomorrow. Small craft advisories for St. Lawrence Island, light winds for the Pribilofs. Monday's outlook, northerlies, 20 knots St. Lawrence Island, 15 here down the coastline, 15 for the Pribilofs, and pretty light for St. Matthew Island. Eastern Beaufort Sea coast tomorrow, east-northeast at 20, central coast down to 15, back up to 20 on the west side. Small craft advisories from Cape Beaufort all the way down to the Strait. And then lightening up under small craft advisory levels there, east-northeasterlies, Cape Beaufort to Wales, east 15 on the western coast, northerlies at 15 on the, well, from the central coast all the way to demarcation point, but just 10 to 15 knots with 3-foot seas. And for tonight, again, look for some possible rain mixed with snow up there along the eastern Beaufort Sea coast into the Brooks Range. Kind of hard to tell, but throw it in the forecast there. And otherwise, areas of light rain, mostly central Brooks Range up to the, all the way over to Mackenzie River Delta Bay area. Showers here in the eastern interior. Good shot of rain coming up with that trough into the eastern North Gulf Coast area around Yakutat. Diminishing rain over the Panhandle. Pretty nice out here in the west. And a very weak front tracking eastward here, although really slowing down. You can see for tomorrow doesn't really make much eastward progress due to this thing here developing. And a few showers behind it. Nice eastern Bering Sea. Shower chances eastern interior into the northern Panhandle. And then for Monday, here's that next big storm coming northward there. So winds, rain increasing Kodiak Island, all along the North Gulf Coast, across the Panhandle, and a good slug of moisture sliding northeastward in across the northern southeast coast by Monday evening. Otherwise, the interior, we've got this trough running from southwest to northeast there, so chance of showers here from Kuskokwim Bay all the way up to the central Brooks Range. Could take on the form of snow.
These forecasts are to be used for planning purposes only. Call 1-800-WX-BRIEF for a formal pre-flight briefing. Always file a flight plan before you go flying. The U.S. Coast Guard Auxiliary urges you to leave a float plan with a friend or the harbor master before you go boating. Alaska Weather is made possible by the following sponsors.
The National Weather Service.